Okay, good morning. Today we're going to be talking and learning about time. In third grade, we had a lot of problems on time, so hopefully this will be a review. Okay, so hold on. I want to share something with you. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take a look at this clock. Notice that it has a green hand, and this hand represents the minute hand. And this particular hand touches every tick on the clock. Okay? The orange hand represents the hour hand. And remember, the hour hand is responsible for telling you what hour it is. It is either going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 o'clock at some point. We'll talk about how we distinguish, how we know when it's between 12 and 1 what it is, when it's between 1 and 2 what it is, when it's between 2 and 3, and so on and so forth. But before we do that, I want you to take a look at one more thing. Okay, hold on. Okay, here's the same clock, but this one allows me to move the hands. So I know, again, that the green hand stands for the minutes. In between every number is what we call a tick. Okay, so right here is where we're going to start, and we would label this as 0 minutes. Okay, then the next tick would be 1 minute. So if I move the hand over one tick, then that represents 1 minute, because again, the green, the long hand, is the minute hand. If I move it over again, then that represents 2 minutes at the second tick. Move it again, that would be 3 minutes. So I move it again, that's 4 minutes. And when I get to the number 1, then that would be 5 minutes. So when we tell time, we know that each one of these little ticks stand for 1 minute. So when we get to a number, we know they're in increments of 5. So I'm at 1, so that would be 5 minutes past. Then I go to 2, that would represent 10 minutes. When I get to 3, that would be 15 minutes. And I go to 4, that would be 20 minutes. When I get to 5, that's 25 minutes. 6 is 30. 7 is 35. 8 is 40. 9 is at 45. 10 is 50. 11 is 55. And we're back at 12, which would be a complete term of 60. So I know that 60 minutes equal 1 hour. Okay. Now, if you notice that when we started out, our orange hand was on the 9. So as it traveled all the way around, notice what happens to the orange hand. It goes to the next hour. So now we're at 10 o'clock. So it takes 60 minutes, 60 whole minutes, to go to the next hour. And notice how when we get there, the hand for the hour hand here is pointing to the next hour. Okay? All right, now I want you to get a piece of clean paper or somewhere in your packet where you have a clean space, because we're going to draw a clock. And you're going to use this clock to help you to tell time. So I'll give you a few minutes to get your paper for your clock. Okay. So, if you will, on your blank piece of paper, I want you to draw a circle. So draw a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I want you to draw a circle on your paper. And I'm going to show you a quick way to make sure you get your numbers. So at the very top, you're going to put a 12, and right at the very bottom of 12, put a 6. In between the 12 and the 6, write the number 3. And in between 6 and 12, write the number 9. Okay? So far you should have 12, 3, 6, and 9 on your paper. Now pause and let you catch up. Okay, so now in between 12, we know the number 1 and 2 is in between 12 and 3. So the number 1 and 2, and I'll pause and let you get that. Then after 3, there's 4 and 5. That on your clock. In between 6 and 9, there's 7 and 8. And in between 9 and 12, please label 10 and 11 on your clock. Okay, and I'll pause and let you catch up. So you should have the numbers 1 through 12 on your clock. All right, so I'm going to change my screen a little bit, but you're still going to write on your clock that you just created. Okay. All right, so your clock should have the numbers 12, and they should all the way be labeled 1 through 12, all the way around, okay? So we're gonna start at the number 12. Now remember, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, and when we write time, we write the hour first. So we would write the hour, and then we would put 2 semicolons, and then we would write the minute, okay? So we're going to concentrate on the minutes because, again, the green hand represents the minutes. So we're going to concentrate on just the minutes for a second. So above your 12, I want you to put dot, 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 0, 0. So put 0, 0. So semicolon, and then put 0, 0. Okay? And I'll pause right there. All right. Then remember, as we count, here's 0, 0. So the first tick would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3, this would be 4, and when we get to the number 1, that would be 5. So this time, I want you to write dot, dot, above the 1, and I want you to put 0, 5. Okay? Okay, so I know that's 5, so if we keep going on, the next would be 6, 7, 8, 9, and then when we get to the 2, then that would be 10. So please put dot, dot, and put 10. All right, so if we continue on, 11, 12, 13, 14. We get to 3 would be 15, dot, dot, 15. Count in increments of 5. When we leave 3, we go to 4. So we put 5 more, and that makes us dot dot 20, because these are our minutes. When we get to 5, it should be dot dot 25. Okay, you got it right. So when we get to 6, we should have dot dot 30. Excellent. And I'll pause to give you time to catch up. All right, so when we get to 7, 35. So remember, you count by 5s. Don't forget your dots. When we get to 8, dot dot 40. When we get to 9, dot dot 45. All right, when you get to 10, dot dot 50. And when you get to 11, dot dot 55. Okay, and then we're back at 12. When we get there, it's a complete 60 minutes. Okay, all right, so remember, your minute hand is your green hand, and your hour hand is your orange hand. So if I look at the time right now, I know that it is pointing to the 8. So it is 8 o'clock. So 8 would be my hour. And right now it's on 12, so it's exactly 8 o'clock. Okay. So the minute hand is on 12, so it's exactly 8 o'clock on that clock. All right. All right. Let's go back to the other clock that we can move around. Okay, so now that you have your clock labeled and you know each number is in increments of 5. So remember, it's in increments of 5. So if I move, let's move my minute hand to the 3. Okay, now notice that my hour hand moved just a little bit, but it's still at 11 o'clock because it is in between 11 and 12, but it has not gotten to 12, so it's still at the 11 o'clock hour. So if I know that that's 11 o'clock, so I know it's going to be 11 o'clock is what I should have. And then if I count my increments of 5 starting at 12, remember this is 0, and I skip over to 1, that's 5, so that's 11:05, 11:10, and 11:15 is where I am. So if I look at this time on this clock, then this would be 11:15. Okay, now let's say I put it here and I put that there. Okay, so now remember the orange hand is my hour hand and the green hand is my minute. Okay, so now look at my hour hand. My hour hand is in between the number 8 and 9, but it has not reached 9 yet, so it is still 8 something. Okay, I know that if the minute hand is at the top at 12, I know that's 8 o'clock. Okay, so let me put it right on the 12. So I know that's 8 o'clock, but the time that I had set looks like that. So I know it's still 8, but it's after 8. So let's count. So starting at 12, and then we go to the 1, that's 8:05. Move it again, 8:10, 8:15, 8:20, 8:25, and I'm going to start right there where we are. So it is at 8:30. So my time here would be 8:30. And notice where my hour hand is. It's in between the 8 and the 9. So it has not reached 9, the number 9 yet. So it is going to still be 8 something. Okay, let's try one more before we move on. Let's say I have a time that looks like that. Okay, so notice that my hour hand is in between 9 and 10. It has not reached 10 yet. So if I were to draw the line, it would be somewhere in here. So it's still not at 10. So that tells me that it is 9 on the hour. So 9 something is what it is. But my 9, my minute hand is pointing to my 9. So let's start at 12 and let's count. I know it's going to be 9 something. So if I pull the hand back, then that would be 9 o'clock. So then that would be 9:05. Next would be what? 9:10. Next would be 9:15. Get to the 4, it's at 9:20. Gets to the 5, it's at 9:25. Now we're at 9:30, 9:35, 9:40. And remember, we want to stop on the 9. So it is 9:45 on that particular clock. Okay. All right. So let's move on. And you keep your clock that you've drawn. And now let's move to your packet, to your first problem, which is an I do. Okay. And it reads, what time is shown on the clock? So I have to figure out the time that is on this clock. Okay. Now let's look at where our hands are. I know that this is my hour hand. Okay. And I know the long hand here, that this is my minute hand. I'm going to pause right there and you label your clock like I have mine. The short hand is the hour hand and the long hand is the minute hand. Okay. All right. If you need additional time, then you would just pause your video. Okay. So let's start with our hour. Let's look at how far it goes. Notice that it's in between. It is in between 1 second. I don't know what happened. I hope y'all are seeing this. Okay. All right. So we're on the I do, the first I do problem. And I ask you to label the hour hand, the short hand, and the minute hand, the long hand. That's what I've asked you to do. Notice with the hour hand, I extended it out because I was trying to point out to you that your hour hand is in between 9 and 10. It's in between 9 and 10. Okay? Keeping that in mind, it's in between 9 and 10. Your hour hand. It's not quite on the 10, so therefore the hour is going to be 9. So we're going to write 9 and then dot, dot, and we have to figure out the minutes. So our hour is 9. Now pause and let you get that information. Okay, now let's look at our minute hand. The minute hand is on the 8. Okay, so remember, let's label. This would be, above the 12 would be your 2 zeros. Above your 1, remember they're in increments of 5, would be 5, 0, 5. Above the 2, would be 10. Above the 3 would be 15. And you keep going until you get to the 8. Okay? Remember to put them in increments of 5. Okay, you're at 7. We should be at 35. So when we get to 8, we know 8 would be 40. So remember, we're counting by 5s. So when we get to every number, remember 12 is 0. When we get to 1, that's 5. 2 is 10. And that's 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So here, our minute hand is directly on that 8. So then our time would be 9:40. 40 minutes past 9. Because it's after 9 o'clock, but it is not till 10 o'clock. It's not 10 o'clock yet. Another way we can read this is that it's 20 minutes away from being 10. So if I count from here to here, 5, 10, 15, 20. 20 whole minutes before 10. So our time here is 9:40. Okay? So I'll pause and let you get what I have. Okay? So let's go to your next problem. The next problem is an I do. It says what time is shown on the clock again. So again, we're looking to just figure out what time it is on this clock. So go ahead and underline and box it in. And we're going to begin by looking at our hands. Okay, remember the short hand represents the hour, and the long hand represents the minute. But I want you to pay special attention to this long hand because it's not on any particular number. So this is my minute hand here. Okay. All right, so make your clock look like mine. Okay, so let's begin by labeling our clock. So at 12, we're going to put 0, 0. At the number 1, we're going to put 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 9 would be 45, 10 would be 50, and then 11 would be 50. Okay, I'll pause and let you catch up. All right, so the first thing we need to do is figure out our hour. And then we need to figure out our minutes. Okay. All right, let's look at our hour. Notice that our hour hand is in between 7 . It's in between the number 7 and 8. So we extend that line. That's where our hour hand is. Okay. It is in between 7, which means it is past 7, but it has not reached 8 yet. So our hour, because it has not reached 8, it stays at 7. So our time is going to be 7 something. So for hour, let's put 7. So put 7 on your paper. It's going to be 7 something, okay? All right, so now we've determined what the hour is. Now we have to figure out what our minutes are going to be, okay? So let's go over here to your minutes. All right, notice that your minutes are in between the 4 and the 5. And when we get here to 4, we know that's 20, okay? And remember, each tick counts for 1 minute. So that's 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. When we get to 5, we know that's going to be 25. But the number that we're looking for is in between 20 and 25 because our minute hand is right here on this line. So we start at 20. So that's 720, 721, 722. And we get here, that would be 723. Okay, so our minute would be 23. So our time on this clock would be 7:23. The hour is 7 and the minutes are 23. Okay, I'll pause and let you catch up. Okay, let's go to your next problem. And your next problem is a redo, and it reads, what time is shown on the clock? Okay, so again, we're looking for time. Okay, go ahead and label your hour hand. The short hand would be your hour hand. Then label your minute hand. Remember, the long hand is the minute hand. It touches every little tick on the clock. Okay, so that's your minute hand. Now let's go up here at 12. And we know that would be 0, 0. So go ahead and label it 0, 0. And then 1 would be 5 minutes past. Go ahead and label. All right, please make sure that your clock is labeled and everything is in increments of 5 by each number. Okay? All right, so now let's figure out what our hour would be. So let's draw a line. Let's put hour, dot, dot, and then 100 put minute. So please write that on your paper. And let's figure out what it would be. All right, so here's our hour hand, the shorthand. Notice it is between the 12 and the 1. Okay. Has it reached the 1 yet? So if I extend my line, it has not reached the 1 yet. It is in between the 12 and the 1. Does that mean our hour is going to be 12 or is it going to be 1? You're exactly right. It's going to be 12. It has not reached the 1 yet. Therefore, it is still the 12th hour. So for your hour, please write 12. All right, now let's concentrate on your minute. We've already labeled. So I know from 12 to 1 would be 5. And then from 1 to 2 is 10. 2 to 3 is 15. 3 to 4 is 20. 4 to 5, 25. Then we move to the 6, that makes 30. Now we're at the 7 and we're at 35. So this one is right on the 7. And we know 7 is what, boys and girls? It is 35 minutes. So it is 12:35. And one way I could do this really quick, I know that 6 is always going to be 30. And 5 more would be 35. So my hour is 12:35 on this particular clock. Okay. All right, let's move to your next one. It is also a we do. It says again what time is shown on the clock. So again, we have to tell what time it is. Go ahead and label your clock in your increments of 5. Okay, so make sure you're labeled. All right, now let's label our hands on our clock. Short hand, we know is the hour hand. Long hand, we know is the minute hand. Okay, so let's start with our hour. So let's go ahead and write our lines where we're going to write our time. All right, so please make your paper look like mine. And now let's go to your hour hand. Notice that your hour hand is in between 11 and 12. So look, it's between 11 and 12. But again, it is not on the 12, so therefore our hour is going to be what? You do. You're right. It's going to be 11. Now let's go to our minute. And remember, if we start at 12, we already labeled. It should be 00 here. All right, so starting at 12, from 12 to 1 would be 5 minutes. And then from 1 to 2 would be 10 minutes. But notice that it doesn't go on the 2. It's in between the 1 and the 2. So that's 5. Then count your ticks. 6, 7, and then we're on the number what? 8. So our minutes would be 8 minutes. So 8 minutes after 11 gives us 11:08. So write 08 because here it would be so your answer would be 11:08. So here would be 5, 05, 06, 07, 08. Okay, so we need that 0 there for time. Okay, because it needs to be 2 digits in the minutes. Okay. All right, so your answer would be 11:08. All right, let's go to the next one. If you need additional time, just pause the video. All right, now, the next thing says, please watch this video if you need more examples before completing your U-Dos and your Kahoots. So here's the video right here. It's a YouTube video. So you can put this in and watch it if you need to before you go to your next problem. So here's your next problem, which is a U-Do. And again, it says, what time is should be shown on the clock. It should be an N right there. What time is shown on the clock? Okay. And I'm asking that you label your clock like we've been doing in your increments of 5, with 0 being here, then 5, then 10, and so on and so forth. Make sure you label your hand. Shorthand would be hour, longhand would be minute. And then remember, if it's in between the two numbers, it hasn't gotten to the number, then it's always the lesser number, okay? Keep that in mind. So when you do your next U-Do, same thing. What time should be shown on the clock? And again, I'm asking you to label your clock. Make sure you label your hand, hour hand, and your minute hand. And each time you write your time like it should be written. So this should be hour, and this should be minutes. And remember, minutes needs to have 2 digits. So if it's less than 10, you got to put O whatever it is, 01, 02, 03, 04, whatever it is, you're going to put it right here. So make sure you keep those things in mind. And again, if you need some additional help with time, here's the YouTube video you can go to before you do your YouTubes and your Kahoots. Okay? All right, you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.